we got to know him as a whistleblower who called BS on the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, protested the crap out of the genocide going on in Gaza, which he's seen for himself. And now we find out, yes, indeed, he is running for Congress in North Carolina, District 13. Please welcome to the show, Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar. Hi,
Thanks
Anthony.
for having me. It's a pleasure, Matt. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for being here. And we're really just so inspired that you announced your campaign. And we think it's just absolutely amazing that you're getting out there after everything you've been through up till now, that you find yourself in this space now. And that's one of the reasons why we really wanted to talk to you today. The Republican Party and the Democratic Party, they're basically partners in crime. And they've been called, as we call the ruling class, leading us into catastrophe in real time. When did you first understand that to be true in your timeline of progression here?
Well, really, with the first trumpet, my eyes began to be opened. As I watched that election unfold, when I was actually deployed into combat, watching that election unfold, and then going into the following presidential administration with the Biden administration, and then back into the Trump administration, and my eyes have just become increasingly more opened, but more so than my eyes being opened in applying critical thought and looking at the facts that are known, in that there's no more excuses. There's no more justification. There's no more, hey, what the administration is doing. Sure, there's a lot of bad, but there's a lot of good. That perverse justification is not true, and it's lies. And this doesn't go back to just the current administration, or the administration under Biden, or the administration under Trump the first time, or the administration Obama, or the administration going back before Bush, and then into the pre-2000s. This has been happening. This has been a lie. The military-industrial complex that controls our politicians and the decisions of our government, but now more so clear than ever, that a foreign government, or foreign governments, plural, are absolutely have an iron grip on the leadership and in our nation, the lawmakers, the executive branch, the judicial branch, all of the things that we swear to value, Constitution, that are now compromised from deeply within, and that the American people are suffering from that. And we see it now, and it's clear now. And for most Americans that are applying critical thought, and for the other part of the Americans that haven't yet come to accept what they see, that day of reckoning is coming. And as I apply my experiences in the military, then I wanted to make clear that I served in the Army for 25 years, 2.5 decades. I joined the Army before we were at war in the global war on terror. And looking back on my career, I am absolutely of what our nation was involved in, the reasons we were fighting war, the lies that we were all told, the lies that the administration told to service members, and the lies that the administration told to Americans, and the lives that have been lost, and what I personally was involved in being a part of the military. But I am proud of the country in terms of our nation, our people, our citizens, and the values that we stand for. And I know that we can have that. We can return to that, or we can uphold American values and moving forward towards a better future and a better nation, a better country. The course we're on with our current administration and what this country represents is a disaster. And the analogy that I'll make is, towards the waning and falling years of the Roman Empire, when they felt that they could never be defeated and nothing they could do would ever be undone, and their resources were spread so thin, they were continuing to occupy and dominate with no end, and their political objectives became obscure, and their leadership became feckless. They started building Hadrian's Wall. And if you go now and you look at Hadrian's Wall around Europe, it's only about 2 feet high. Couldn't stop anybody. It was just a perception. It was a lie to the people. So the analogy that I will give right now to America is that under this administration, we are building Hadrian's Wall, and we are doing it with our tax dollars. And it is a lie. And all we are doing is allowing the enemy from within to lie to us and bring our downfall. It will come from within.
So you were in Gaza, and there was this moment. I know you've described it as the moment that broke you. I want you to explain that if our viewers haven't heard that from your vantage point and how that felt for you. And then I want to follow it up with, if you could let us know, were you aware what you were signing up for when you came back here and walked into Congress and tell them, and you did this multiple times, tell them no to genocide? Did you know how hard that would be, or did it not matter because of what you experienced, that there was no other choice? But yeah, please tell us, what was that like for you?
So I'll start with the did I know what I was getting myself into, so to speak. I had recently retired from the United States military 11 months ago, March 1st of 2025. So still not even a year since I retired. When I did retire, I was not looking into any contract work. I was not looking into doing any work with the government. I was not looking into being a government employee in any aspect whatsoever. I wanted to go to school. I wanted to go to law school because I wanted to be a public defender. It's always been deep in my heart to want to represent those that are taken advantage of by a system of money and power. So yeah, I was set to go to law school and to be a public defender here in my county. And I got a phone call from the UG Solutions, which is a private security firm here in North Carolina, on May 13th. And when I got that phone call, I had never heard of UG Solutions. I had never heard of the GHF. I wasn't aware of these entities that were brewing. And when they called me, the call wasn't, hey, we're looking for guys that hate Arabs, that want to go to Gaza and pretend to serve food under this auspice of aid while we kill Palestinians. Are you down for that? That wasn't the recruiting pitch. The recruiting pitch to me was, the United States is funding an operation, a project to bring food to Gaza to feed Palestinians, while the powers that be, so to speak, figure out what the future of the UN and UNRWA will be. And if you recall, this was right at the point where there had been a breakdown of last year's ceasefire going into March had broken down. We were back in full-scale war. Israel declares that UNRWA can no longer go in. So at that point, Tony Aguilar knew facts. One, Palestinians are starving. It is a famine on the brink of what I believed already at the time to be a genocide and a famine, without having been there to see it, just the known facts. That no food was going in. Blocking of UNRWA and the trucks and going into Gaza, what people need to understand is that Gaza is completely reliant upon Israel, and its occupation makes it even more nefarious. Food, water, medicine, clothes, tentage, fuel, gas, propane, anything that's needed. Imagine everything that you would need in your daily life, from flushing the toilet to putting gas in your vehicle, is controlled by an oppressive entity. So the second thing I knew is that nothing was going in. And the third thing I knew, well, this entity, the Gaza Humanitarian Fund, was going to lead the way in bringing aid in, and that we were going to do it unilaterally, independently, and they needed people that had experience in planning, had experience in operating in austere environments, because we were going to go in there and we're going to do hard work. That's why I said yes. They recruited me. When I got there and I saw it with my own eyes, despite the mountains of money that they were paying us, and despite the backlash and the fear for my own life, and my livelihood and my safety and my security and my well-being and my reputation, none of that matters. None of that matters. Doesn't even register on the scale of comparison to my humanity and the humanity of humankind. Because what I'm telling everybody, to be clear, is that what is happening in Gaza, what is happening in the West Bank, what is happening particularly directly to the Palestinian people, is planned. It will not end unless we stop it. and it will be a stain on the history of mankind. What is happening is nothing more that can be described than evil. To the second point, that it broke, what I want to communicate to everybody is that I didn't go into Gaza having never seen conflict. I didn't drive into Gaza on the 24th of May having never been exposed to war. In the last quarter century, I served in every single war that has put boots on the ground. Iraq multiple times, Afghanistan multiple times, Syria. I'd been to in operations in Somalia and Yemen and the southern Philippines and Tajikistan and all over the world, and experiencing and being exposed to war. Rafah, Syria, in the fight against ISIS, the destruction left behind in Rafah. I thought, there's nothing on the planet that could ever be that bad. More so than the destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, more so than the firebombing of Dresden, because in Raqqa, not only did we bomb and destroy, and the ISIS destroyed, but the number of civilians that were not only left dead, but brutalized and tortured and left in the streets to rot. And I saw all this. When I was in Gaza, it broke me to drive through Rafah, knowing that that city on the border of Egypt was a bustling seaside town where children went to school and people went to pray in the mosque and Christians went to pray in churches and communities lived, is now destroyed to dust and rubble. And then as you're driving through there, though there is nothing left, the Israelis continue to bomb it out of hatred and evil. And in those mountains of rubble where people lived in their homes, because when Israel went through and saturated bombing, or carpet bombing, as you would think of in the Vietnam era, they didn't allow civilians to escape. They weren't bombing Hamas tunnels. They were bombing neighborhoods intentionally. And those people, children, fathers and mothers, left in the rubble. Many died, and that some that didn't die that were left in that rubble, where you could hear them cry out from the rubble and to help them. Rabid dogs eating at the flesh of Palestinians left on the streets to die. And as you're driving through that, seeing it, well, you have a truck full of humanitarian aid. The cognitive conflict in that, but then looking behind the curtain and realizing a shadow of a doubt that the United States government is aware, is complicit, is an accomplice to it, knows what's happening, supports what's happening, continues to pay for what's happening, underwrites and gives Israel a green to it. Why? Because of the greater plan to erase Palestinian history and culture, remove, either kill or forcefully displace, or make the conditions so unlivable that Palestinians have to leave. All for what? For what? It's not for a safer world. You know what it's for? A real estate venture.
Of course.
That's what it's for.
That's the peace. That's the Gaza peace board. We saw that announced in Davos. Everybody's signing on, all these venture capitalists and looking at it as a real estate project. Absolutely. And people see that, and yet they still think that, well, something has to be done. You might as well make $1 doing it. But you're saying you knew this was the plan the whole way, and you can tell because of the way they behave, because of the gloating, because of the nonchalantness about it, that you're saying like every one of them was considered Hamas for whatever reason. So they didn't have to be, selective, right? So you figured that out. Was that something that did you suspect going in to Gaza, or did it take for you to be on the ground and see the way the IDF was behaving and see how they were going about their business? I mean, I'm just saying, because we were told October 7th, we were told that there needed to be some response, right? That we needed to teach Hamas a lesson. And so was there, when did that shift happen for you, where you're like, wait a minute, it sounds like this whole thing might have just been one entire theater piece to manufacture consent, as Noam Chomsky tells us, manufacture consent to get everybody on board to, taking care of the terrorists and getting them over there so they don't get us over here. That type of language. Did you change your impression on that based on what you saw on the ground? Or in other words, if they were more discreet about it, is it possible you would have not been as suspicious about it if they try to hide it more?
Perhaps, but I think that there was there's for anybody that has been there and seen it, there's no hiding it. There, no matter how discreet or how much they want to lie. And I really like your question. And what I like about, having interviews with folks that are critical thinkers such as yourself, and not having like lined up questions prepared, is that you get to hear me and then ask really good questions. That's a question that's never really been posed in that way before. And it's a very important question, because when I went to Israel to do this work in Gaza, I didn't go with this idea of Israel's bad, with Zionists, with this biased perception of proving a confirmation bias. I went, as you would call, almost somewhat neutral. Like, I didn't really I knew what was happening was wrong. I didn't know, is this state-sponsored apartheid terrorism in what Israel is doing? Hamas October 7th, and I'll tell you there. I'll walk you through it. That kind of opened my eyes little by little. The first day we got into Israel, we arrived into Tel Aviv, and our handlers, if you will, because the Israeli government was not going to allow us to see things, to experience our own. We were going to have to see it through their lens. There's an organization in Israel under the Ministry of Defense. It's called COGAT, or the Coordinating Office for the Government Activities in the Territories. It sounds very 1948, doesn't it? Like the Ministry of Truth. They control Gaza and the West Bank. Dictate, oppress. So this organization, when they met up with us, they escorted us to the first night to hotels to stay in Israel until the following day, when we would begin our onboarding, so to speak, to prepare for operations in Gaza. And that night they took us to this place called Sderot. And I'd ask anybody to Google it, and you can find many YouTube videos. It's in the news. It's been in the news now. Then it wasn't so much known. Now it is. There's a location in Israel. It's called Sderot. It's an overlook, a large hill. It's biblical. It's from the days of the Bible, when Crusaders entered the Holy Land, and they stood over the hill of Sderot, and they looked into the Holy Land, and they realized that this land must be liberated. It has meaning biblically. And on this position of Sderot, if you stand on Sderot and you look to the west, you see all of Gaza. On a clear day, you can see all of it, to the white, beautiful waves crashing into the shore of the Mediterranean, all the way down to the Egyptian border. You can see all of it. And as we're standing there looking, you see 2,000-pound bombs dropping in the background. You see half of Gaza on fire, smog and smoke, and the smell of that western breeze, that coastal wind coming off, blowing you in the face. You can smell the death. And for anyone that's ever been in war and you've smelled human death and destruction, it's a smell that will never leave you. And then when that smell came across me, I was like, what is this? And this Kolgat officer stood there almost celebrating and saying, this will all be ours soon. And I was standing there and I was like, maybe I'm the dumb kid in class, but I raised my hand and I was like, I thought we were here to feed Palestinians. And I thought the whole idea of this was to create the ability for peaceful negotiations. What do you mean it's all going to be ours? And he kind of scoffs. And then another guy standing next to me, another American contractor standing next to me, kind of gives me an elbow. And he was like, you know why we're here, right? And I'm like, to feed people? And then I realized that the UG Solutions contract, the company that hired, the reason they hired me is because they needed to fill in some last minute positions, because they had a contract that they had to come with 300 armed contractors. And at the very end, the week prior, because remember, I got a call on May 13th. I was on a plane to Gaza on the 16th. They were trying to hire people at the end, but I realized that who they had already hired was the Infidels Motorcycle Club. And that's who the majority of the contractors were. So for them, the obvious was good. They wanted that. The Infidels Motorcycle Club is a U.S. base where you must be a U.S. military veteran to join it. And they have a charter Their existence is to fight jihad and for the erasure of all Muslims from the earth.
Wow.
They call themselves infidels, and they wear a crusader cross, and on that cross is emblazoned 1095, the year of the first crusade that Pope Urban did, the first crusade to the Holy Land. These men think that they are modern day crusaders, and going there to do this job was a pilgrimage. So to see the obvious, the bombing, the genocide, the killing of women and children, to them, it wasn't just clear, it was desired. And the culture that I was surrounded by. And then when they took us, they took us further on what I would call this Haspara tour. And they took us to Kibbutz Be'eri. Kibbutz Be'eri is just outside of Gate 96. It is the kibbutz that was first attacked on October, allegedly. And when I went there and they showed me the kibbutz, the destruction, look at what the Hamas did. Look at what they did. And they're walking us through it. And again, dumb kid in class asked a question. I was like, why are these bullet holes here in the wall here? That doesn't make sense. Oh, Hamas did that. And I'm like, okay. Hamas did not do that because those bullet holes are distinctly and specifically in pattern and size from a 30 millimeter chain gun. Hamas does not own 30 millimeter chain guns. Never have, never will. The only people in this region, on this side of the fact that own the 30 millimeter chain gun, is Israel, attached to the Apache helicopter, of which Israel has. So, why are there 30 millimeter chain gun bullets littered throughout this place if it was Hamas? Who are you shooting at? You were shooting at Hamas? If you were using an Apache and a 30 millimeter chain gun to shoot at Hamas in these buildings, how many do you know you killed? Or is that what happened at all? And like, believe me, I've in the conflicts that I've been in, those bullet holes there, that they weren't from an AK, they weren't a 7.62 or from 155 recoilless, which is in the minuscule arms that Hamas might have. These were from Apache attack helicopters, of which Israel has and used on October 7th. So connect those dots. That doesn't make sense. And then they took us to Gate 96, where apparently the gate reached. Unless it was precursed, set up, established, or somehow pre-coordinated plan for people to breach that gate, it would have been impossible. There's no way. That gate it has got steel on it, thicker than Fort Knox, cables that will keep it from being opened unless it's opened by the IDF. IDF stationed on both sides of it, trenches on both sides of it, electrification on both sides of it, guns and cameras and concrete. There's no way unless they let them. There's more to this.
Yeah. Obviously, of course they let it. We know about the Hannibal directive, right? We know these things. They've said it out loud. So you're calling it out in real time. You're conducting an investigation on your own by asking questions, and you're getting them in a corner there. Did the Hannibal did that come up at any point as well? Because
to be honest, at that time, me there, I was not aware of the Hannibal directive. I was not well educated in terms of this, these policies and such. I wasn't. And people will say, "Oh, you're in the military for this long." Well, my area of responsibility, my expertise was not necessarily the Levant. I was more focused in South America and Southeast Asia. So I'm not going to say I didn't pay attention to it, but no, I didn't know about the Hannibal directive until later. And then when someone, to almost in the exact same way you just explained it, when I was explaining it to a reporter later on, they were like, "Well, you do know about the Hannibal directive, right?" And I'm like, "No." So, but what that should portend to people is that I didn't go there looking at these things already having a bias and trying to confirm that bias. I looked at it from the perspective of a clean slate. Like, this doesn't make sense. Like, this looks like you killed them. They did. So when I connected all these dots and things started coming together, and then when we went into, and then the third lie that we were told was that, I was getting ready to, when we were going to go into Gaza, I was getting ready for, Mad Max warrior, Hamas attacking us, Night of the, like, just full on Mogadishu style battle going in there to deliver food, and that Hamas was just waiting for us. And I'll tell you, the 46 consecutive days, every day, spending hours upon hours upon hours in and out of Gaza, going in and out in all locations. Gaza. You know how many Hamas I saw?
How many?
0. You know how many Palestinians I saw that were even armed with any type of weapon? Pistol, rifle, knife, bomb. 0.
Wow.
You know how many threats I received, or any Palestinian ever throwing rocks at us, or flipping me off, or spitting at me, or calling us names, or mean? 0.
Wow.
On the 27th of May, on the 26th of May, our first day of distribution at site number 1, the Israeli army held back a line. The Israeli army was supposed to coordinate through Kogat with the Palestinian Authority, with the Gaza Health Ministry, to have only a certain amount of people come at once, because we could not, we obviously could not provide aid to everybody at once. So we were only going to provide aid on that very first day to about 9,000 people, which is horribly minuscule, but that was the plan. But Israel allowed 34,000 Palestinians to rush the site from the release from the Marag corridor. And that was intentional. That was intentional. And as these 34,000 Palestinians rushed to the site, for Israel, it was a win-win. Kill some Americans. Oh, and now we have full green light from Trump to go in and just kill every Palestinian. Make it look like a disaster. Or if they don't, the Palestinians kill each other. And if they don't, well, we can just gun them down in the melee. And, well, they did gun them down. But what didn't happen were any Americans were held hostage, killed, or hurt. I was there. And as the amount, 34,000 people came to the site, the ground shook from the amount of people coming to the site. The ground shook. And I took out my phone and I had it looking at me. A lot of the pictures that came out from that day of Palestinians coming into that site, that notorious day, I took some of that. Not all of it, but not all of it that's been used, especially from the outside. But of it was from me. And as I'm standing there, I took out my phone to make a video of myself, to tell my family I loved them, and to say, hey, I was here trying to do good. And, when you find this, know that, I'm sorry that this is the way that I'm going out. Like, I thought it was over. When you're told that everyone hates you, and Hamas, they're going to kidnap you, they're going to this and that, and 34,000 people are coming to your site, and there's only 20 U.S. contractors there. I mean, that's a ratio of 1 to 450. I was like, yeah, we're done. So I just took out my phone. I'm like, hey, Mom, to my wife too, my name, but honey, I miss you. I love you. And I'm sorry this is how I'm going out. I know I didn't need to be here. I didn't have to do this. And I'm sorry. And then as this wave of people come through, not one of them touched me, pushed me, shoved me, angry. Look, they were looking for food. And as I was stepping backwards to give space to kind of make some distance, I fell backwards. I wasn't tripped. I wasn't hit. I fell backwards. And a Palestinian man stopped and helped pick me up and dusted me off and gave me a hug and was like, shukran, brother. And it just dawned on me that where's all this Hamas? Where's all this Palestinians hate everybody and they hate us? And I'm not seeing it. In fact, I'm seeing the opposite. And then day after day after day of starvation and not providing food and not providing, and lies and lies and lies coming from the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and the IDF. Their lies began to, the lies coming from GHF and the lies coming from the IDF begin to synchronize, like a synchronized propaganda, to where they were one and the same. And that's when, at that point, I realized that there is no reforming or there's no saving this. This is not something that we can fix because we came in misunderstanding the problem. What we're doing, the starvation, the turning the distribution sites into bait to draw in Palestinians, That's not a failure in the project. That's the plan.
That's exactly
That is the plan.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I had to leave, regardless of the consequences. I have to speak out, even if it kills me, because this is evil. This is evil incarnate on our earth, and we as a human race are witnessing it.
You thinking that you were going to die that was also part of the plan. That was also timed. That was so, and people speaking out here in the street, being told that they are dangerous, they are violent, they wish death on all of Israel. And when you say from the river to the sea, you are the one that makes them feel like you want to wipe them all out, when they're actually the ones in real time wiping out Palestinians. The whole thing is reversed. It's backwards. It's fooling people on purpose by design. That's why the activism is so important. You realizing this, Anthony, coming back and taking it right to Congress. This is putting it into action. You're not just talking about it. You're going into that lion's den and letting the rest of us, the people we've been covering, the UCLA protests and all the other campuses throughout the entire time, back during Biden. By the way, let's remind people, Biden was in charge when we started doing the blank check to Netanyahu, as RFK Jr. told us, no red line policy. That was Biden. Trump is just escalating it to where it is now with the real estate deal. But you went in there and you disrupted. And we talk about disrupting. I know you know Jose Vega. He's been on our show. We talk about the art of disruption. And you just pulled this off beautifully. I just want to show this. People didn't see this when you went in there. And it was you and another fellow Army vet, Josephine Gilboa.
Josephine Gilboa.
Gilboa. Okay, you were both arrested for disrupting this U.S. Senate hearing on foreign affairs. I just want to remind people, if they haven't seen it, or if you haven't seen it at all, this is that moment of disruption.
The government is complicit in genocide. You have an obligation to the Constitution of the United States. I'm a disabled veteran.
There's a genocide! There's a genocide! Stop!
You are all complicit in genocide.
You're complicit in a genocide! You're complicit in a genocide! Eddie, there's a genocide! Eddie, there's a genocide! Come on, Eddie! There's a genocide! Why are they arresting you?
They're arresting us for speaking out against genocide.
Stop the bombs!
The U.S.
Stop
Congress
the bombs!
is paying for the
Stop
death of children,
slaughtering babies!
women and children.
Stop slaughtering babies! We are being arrested right now for interrupting a foreign affairs hearing on nominations because the U.S. is complicit in genocide. They are complicit in the slaughter of babies.
When the United States Congress comes after veterans, they will come after you. Every American sitting at home right now needs to realize that you are paying for a genocide.
Rise up, America, rise up. It is time to take back this country from these corrupt politicians. It is time. It is beyond time.
Anthony, your warning there is so it sends chills up my spine hearing it now, and we've seen this a few times. But even now, after the ICE raids and the killing of American citizens on our own soil in Minneapolis, we've been covering this. We've been seeing it come here. What we do over there, it comes right back here. You're telling us this when this incident happened. I guess it was back in September. This, I guess, paved the way for you where you are now. And I want to talk about your campaign. But first, I just want to thank you on behalf of all of the other protesters, not just throughout, like we were talking about the college protesting, throughout the Biden years, throughout the Trump year so far, all the people protesting against ICE and Palantir and all those elements that are in play right now. To see you do this, to go out there and to be handcuffed and be taken away, it's inspiring to say the least, but it tells people they're on the right side. It tells people they can be just as courageous as you. And I want to thank you on behalf of everyone that's been in the streets this whole way for all of these things, because they're all connected. And to pass it back to you, I'm saying that this probably is what led into you running for office. Can you tell us from the moment that this arrest happened to when you decided to run, what shift happened for you there? Or did you know you were going to do that the whole time as well?
So the idea of politics was far beyond anything that I ever imagined. I detest politics. but I do love our country. And doing that disruption was because that was on September 3rd. And September 3rd was the first week that the Congress, both the Senate and the House, were back in session after the impromptu after the impromptu recess of the House because Speaker Johnson didn't want to address the Epstein files. This is that period of time. So prior to that, I had been going to Congress every week, days out of every week since July through September. As many congressmen and women as I could, both sides of the aisle, Senate and the House, telling them what I had saw and witnessed. And Senator Jim Risch, who is the chair of that Senate Foreign Affairs Committee, is one of the largest recipients of AIPAC and Israel lobbyist money in our entire Congress. When I spoke to his staff and I spoke to him, their response was somewhat, I got three types of responses out of Congress. We know, and we're trying to do something. And man, we are up against a machine of compromise and complicity and evil. And then I got some that said, it's complicated. I don't really have the political clout to push back on it. I don't really know. I haven't really decided where I stand. And then you had those that were, your Jim Risch, your Randy Fines, your Ted Cruz's, your Stuns, your Brian Masts, that were, oh yeah, what we're doing is right. The more the dead, the better. Kill them all. That's the response I got from Brian Mast. Kill them all. Better when they're all dead. And so when I went to go see Jim Risch and I looked at it, I was like, okay, protesting in the streets. I do that. Love it. It's important. Demonstrating. Yes. Making our voices heard. Petitioning. Yes. But I told myself, this is not enough. It's not enough. And so I thought to myself, having been in the machine for 25 years, I know how the machine works. Yeah. I know where the cogs are. I know where, if it's not greased, what breaks. I know who runs what, who pulls what levers. So I decided to myself, okay, I did some, what I would call some operations. And I looked at it and I said, okay, who is the ones giving money? Who are the ones in our Congress that say, yes, you can give this money to Israel? Well, it's the Senate Foreign Affairs Committee. And who is the majority on that committee? Well, you have a minority and a majority, and the majority is Republicans led by the chair, Jim Risch. And then you have a minority leader, Senator Sheehan, who's also an AIPAC recipient. So I was like, wow, AIPAC has managed to buy off, and also who's a member of that committee? Ted Cruz. So when I look at all of the people that were part of this committee, it became clear to me. AIPAC has bought off the committee that determines through our government process whether or not Israel gets money. So I felt, well, I got to go into the belly of the beast, and I did. And the government will scare people in, oh, you can't go to those. That's not for normal people. And I assure you, it absolutely is. Going into that hearing, there's no special pass. You don't have to pay. You just go early and stand in line. And when they open the doors, you walk in. You could be in flip-flops and board shorts. It is the people's house. Anybody can go. So part of me going to do that was to show everybody that anybody can go to these hearings. Anybody. And they'll try to scare you further. Some people would say, oh, that's courageous what Tony did. But, I can't, I got to work. I can't get arrested, this and that. I'll tell you, truth. And this is what they'll believe. I got arrested and I'm a criminal. I didn't get arrested. What happened was they detained because what we had done wrong was we violated a rule of decorum. Not a law, not a felony, not a misdemeanor, because here's the rules of decorum inside the Congress. What we did in standing up in protest, we absolutely have the right to do. If I would have stood up and I would have spoke quiet, if I just would have stood up and been like, you're violating the Constitution, it's not right, I could have stood there. been fine. The reason they took me out is because of my voice. That's a violation of decorum. And what I will tell every American, every congressman, Senate, and the House, in their budget, a budget that you as the taxpayer pay, they have a decorum budget because they all violate decorum every time in the committee chair. Whenever they walk into the committee, if they're there late, that's a decorum violation. If they leave early, which they all do, that's a decorum violation. If they speak out of turn, whenever you watch C-SPAN and they're like, Senator from such and such state, calm down. Well, they get a decorum violation. It's $35 per violation, and they do it all the time. So I figured, well, if it's good for the goose, it's good for the gander. So I went in there, and I had $35 in cash ready to go. And when they came in and they got me, what they tried to do is they tried to incite a secondary charge. Like, for example, standing there, holding up the Constitution. Was I aggressive? Was I threatening? Was I standing up on a chair? Was I throwing something? No. And they tackled me to the ground. Why? Because they wanted me to fight back. They wanted me to resist. So then they can hit me with a charge of resisting arrest. And they could do nothing to me. So I got a decorum violation. I went down to the Capital City Police. I paid my $35. I got released. And I went right back to the Capitol that afternoon. I went right back to another hearing. So don't let them scare you. Don't let them scare you from exercising your constitutional right. And if anybody will say to me any day, you're going to go to Congress and disrupt based on the sanctity of our Constitution for a $35 decorum fee, yeah, 7 days a week and twice a day, I will do it.
That's a great distinction to make, and people need to hear this. There is a difference between arrested and being detained, even though they both involve handcuffs. You didn't actually break any law. They can't charge you for anything. You did everything exactly right. This is a good example for others to set. So I hope people are taking notes, because we all have the right to go in and do what Tony did here. Let's talk about your campaign. You're running as in the Green Party. So outside of, obviously you're saying, I'm outside of this two-party duopoly, outside of the Uniparty. I'm taking on this thing head on as a Green candidate. Could you just tell us what your main platforms are, just brief, give us an idea of how you're able to kind of connect this kind of, I'm thinking this is a populist campaign for people you want to attract on all sides into what you're doing.
Grassroots, people-powered, populist campaign. I don't care what your political affiliation. This is about America. This is about us, the people. And what I would say is that I did not necessarily choose party running based on what their values are. I based it on what my values are first, because I cannot in good standing position to represent people based on adopting someone else's values, to say, oh, look, this is me. I can't live through somebody else's values. So the way I saw it was, what would be really nice in this country is affordable health for everybody, affordable housing for everybody, for having a living wage where you can actually live your life and not spend your entire life from cradle to grave in debt. That would be amazing. Or universal child care, to raise a family and also work and have the ability for your children to be cared for while you're working, and not have to choose between not working and going on welfare because you have children, or having to pay for a expensive au pair or some type of expensive childcare. Universal childcare. The children are our future. We, as a society, we should be saying yes, universal childcare, yes to universal healthcare, yes to universal housing, yes to a living, yes to having policies to take care of our planet, like not having AI factories being built in our backyards where they take 35 million gallons of water a day to process their AI to then turn that into data to use against us. How about we stand up against that? Those are my values, and I looked at it. So party politics, why? The big question is, well, then why? Why don't you just run independent? And what I want to tell everybody is every state in the union has a different law in terms of how you can run in the primary or the general election for U.S. Congress, for the U.S. president, for whatever. Every state has different laws. In the state of North Carolina, the Green Party, which I admire and respect, in the last election in 2024, made some pretty big breaking headway. And that's in North Carolina, because in North Carolina, if you were not part of the Democratic Party or the Republican Party and running in the primary, you couldn't run in the general election on the ballot. In order to then run, you couldn't run in the primary. And in order to run in the general between March and November, spending your time campaigning, you were spending your time getting enough signatures to petition the state to allow you to be either a write-in on the ballot or on the ballot with enough of a petition to be on the ballot. And that's obviously rigging the system. But also, imagine if I ran no party and I ran as an independent. I'd be in that same boat in North Carolina. In order to run, I could not run in the primary in March, and I would not be able to run in the general in November without having to petition the state of North Carolina with enough signatures to even get as an option to be written in. So go to the ballot booth, the voting booth, and you let's say it's a midterm election like's coming up, and you show them your ID and you go in there and you verify who you are and you open up your little booklet and you start, or on the computer, depending on what your state does, and you look at the names there and it's like, okay, there's Elmer Fudd, there's Donald Trump, he would run amongst those candidates, and then there's you could pencil someone in. Well, in order to pencil that person in, you could pencil in your mom. You can say, my mom's awesome. But if you pencil in an actual candidate, that candidate has to be recognized by the Federal Election Committee as a viable candidate, or that vote on away. So that system is rigged. What the Green Party did last election cycle was file suit against the state of North Carolina to guarantee that the Green Party will be on the ballot. And here's the beauty. I don't have to run primary because there's no one else in my district running green. We have the incumbent, Brad Knott. We have a Democratic opponent who we'll see, though there's three actually. So the primary elections here in March will yield one Republican, one Democrat. Into the general, you'll have one Democrat, one Republican, one Green Party, and I believe that there is a Libertarian registered. Not sure how far he's going to take it. So that goes into the running for the race in the general. And I will be on the ballot, not a pencil in, not have to, as of right now, as it stands, I'm on the ballot. So I can spend my time in campaigning on the cause, not fighting to even get on the ballot. So that's why I'm running. Well, that's not why. That is an added benefit to the fight that the Green Party has put up.
And you're taking full advantage of that. And this is the most effective way you can put yourself out there, your messaging out there, and get to the general. It makes 100% sense. And we're 100% for you running green in North Carolina. But I do have to say, Anthony, those those platforms, the healthcare for all, childcare for all, affordable housing for all, living wage for all, those sound like very radical ideas to me, Anthony. I don't know. Those are very extreme. I mean, unless you're in Israel, then you get those automatically because we pay for all that. We pay for all of that in Israel. But if you're running in the U.S., those are radical ideas. Well, at least that's what was told to us by the mainstream media and by our both political parties. How interesting they did that. They tricked us into something you just told us, things we all should want are sounding very, very radical to people that aren't paying attention because they were told those are radical ideas. Those are very, very normal things to want. And so I 100% support what you're doing. My question for you right now, because we got to do AIPAC tracker. So everyone knows there he is. I see a 0.00. That's good to see. AIPAC tracker, nothing coming in. from AIPAC. But then we saw your competitor, Brad Knott. He's already raking in a little bit. There's probably more coming his way with that AIPAC tracker. Now, with both of that, seeing those you two going head to head there, which are you most thinking? What is the biggest obstacle for you, would you say, between AIPAC, the Democratic Party, or the Republican Party stopping you, or whatever means they do to try and halt you from what you're doing?
I have there's a lot of benefit in running in this race, and I'll kind of do a side-by-side comparison. So the incumbent, Brad Knott, if you were to look at data, statistics, and analytics, has the best chance just from Jump Street because he's the incumbent. But look, AIPAC money has already committed $95 to the midterm election. So you can rest assured that every candidate, and this is not a Republican-Democrat thing. Only Republicans take AIPAC. Democrats take it too, and in some cases even more. One of the highest recipients of AIPAC money is a Democrat. So this is not, they're both the same coin. And when you look at that, yeah, the AIPAC money is coming. Here's where I stand against what I would say my primary opponent being Brad Knott. He doesn't even live in this district.
Wow.
He lived in the North Carolina District 13. A district is 48% black, about 18% Hispanic, Latino, the rest being white or other that are typically within the lower middle income to lower income. He doesn't live here. He lives over in Moore County in Whispering Pines, where they play the golf championship. Big money. He was a lawyer, comes from big family money, never served in the military. He went to law school and became a lawyer and then ran for politics. So I served this country for 25 years. So in District North Carolina, or District 13 in North Carolina, a large percentage of the population are veterans that have served. So I'm going into this as a veteran that served, who lives in the district that I'm running in, who is amongst all of the people here that fight for the same things I'm fighting for, like paying a mortgage. My child doesn't go to private school. I don't send my child away out of district to a private school. He goes right here in my district, in the county school, to elementary school, 2 miles down the road from my house. My family is in this district. So I'm fighting for this district and for America because I live here. This is me. I'm not a carpetbagger trying to bring in, my ideas and my money to a people that I don't represent. Represent these people. I represent us. So, and I don't come from money. I served in the military to make my way. I don't, as a 100% totally and permanently disabled veteran, when I left service because of my wounds, my injuries, my history of being gunshot wounds and bones and the like, I'm 100% totally and permanently disabled. So do matters of the VA matter to me? Absolutely. And do they matter to a lot of people in this district? Absolutely. Whether you served or not, if you're a beneficiary of someone that is a retiree, you also are reliant in a way on the VA. So does it matter? And who does it matter to a lot? Me, because that's my health care, and that's also my, it takes care of my family. So affordable housing, who cares about that in this district? Me. Not putting an AI, a new AI facility in our district, which is being proposed for Sanford right up the road from me. Not having that come here. Who cares about that? I do, because I live in this district. Yeah. So there's a lot of pros going into the comparison, but also I don't take AIPAC money. Not only am I on AIPAC tracker as a 0-0, I'm also endorsed by AIPAC tracker. Because only do I not take AIPAC money, I stand firm, I stand outward, and I stand outspoken against the genocide and what Israel is doing. I'm not a bystander. I don't just not take money and sit back and say, oh, well, that's complicated. No, I have put skin in the game. I don't take money from them, and I will tell them that they are wrong. And I will tell the U.S. government that it's wrong for funding it.
Anthony, when you're connecting with voters and you see people that have had enough with the Democratic Party or they've had enough with the Republican Party, which do you think is easier for you to have those conversations about getting out of that duopoly and just being done with it altogether? And do you think the Epstein drop that's happened, the 3 million files, and people responding to that, the population responding to that, do you think that's made it easier to start this conversation with people that maybe feel hopelessness right now? Or is that hopelessness overwhelming people and they're making them kind of go throw their arms in the air and say, the whole system's rigged, what can I even do?
There is a there is a noticeable sentiment of nothing I can do. It's just the way it is, and the elite run things, and we're just gonna have to wait till there's a civil war or something. It's just, we can't change it. That is a poor and defeatist attitude, because we can change it. Until someone shows me in this country that we turn out at voting on voting day, that we turn out to vote in the 80 to 90%, and the government still doesn't listen to us, then maybe we can start entertaining the need for, maybe we need a civil war. But when we only go out and vote at the margins of around 40 to 42%, we don't have anyone to blame but ourselves. It's not hopeless. We're not even trying. So to the side of, I think there are a lot of Republicans who see now, like, the Republican Party is not what I voted for, what I want, and I want change. I'm not going to go vote Democrat, but I'll vote for someone else. Yeah. Honestly, that change is harder in the Democratic Party, because the Democratic Party still stand on this position of, oh no, we're not like them. We're not like the Republicans. And I'll tell you, for anybody out there that has some time interested, just simply go to www.congress.gov and click on any of the committees, because I just did this last night. And for some, because I'm just educating myself. And one case is as an example, the House of Representatives Oversight Committee, which soon will determine the remaining DHS budget for ICE by the end of this week. The deadline's Friday. Yeah. Every single member of that committee, 39 Republicans and 26 Democrats, every single one of them takes AIPAC money. Every one of them. Wow. Every one of them, Democrat and Republican. In fact, out of the fewer Democrats out of that, they take more. They take more than the Republicans, and the Republicans outnumber them. So they're taking more money from AIPAC. So when we consider that when a Democrat is running and saying, we're not like them, oh, you are. You are like them, but worse, because you even lie about not being like them, and you are.
Wolves in sheep's clothing. That's what we've discovered. But they're all wolves. That's the thing. And you're connecting with them right now. Anthony, I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us. If you have anything last you want to say to our viewers, I know I want to get your website up here so people can go. I got it right here. This is the Aguilar for uscongress.com. Go check it out right now, because this is one of the most important people's movement we have going on right now. It's such a timely moment in time where we're at. So get on board right now, guys. Just check it out. Anthony, anything else? Yeah, anything you want to leave us before we say goodbye?
No, I have the show. I've been a big fan, and when I was reached out to me to come on, I was like, heck yeah, like I love that show. So thank you for your voice, and thank you for continuing the truth that you espouse and breaking through the legacy media propaganda and telling the people the truth and allowing people to use critical thought. I said in my announcement part, that what we have in our country now are thought assassins. They want to shoot down critical thought or anyone thinking differently, and voices like yours help us with that. So yeah, there's my website, www.aguilarforcongress.com. And the Green Party vote, it is not a throwaway vote. It is an enhancing vote. Here in North Carolina alone, I'm not the only one. We've got Mike Durbin running in District 2. We have a U.S. Senate nominee running here in North Carolina for the U.S. Senate. We have Green Party in Texas with Greg Stoker running for Texas 31st, another veteran. We have Butch Ware, California, running for governor, Green Party.
Yes.
We have
Out
other
here,
Green
yes.
Party candidates throughout the country that are not only running, but are on the ballot. This is not a throwaway vote. This is a time of revolution. This is a time of change. This is the change we want by doing it the way that is the most effective. And that's by voting and changing law. Do it. And the time has never been, or the need has never been greater, and the time has never been better. So let's do this. You know, we got a few months until the general election. Let's do this, and you will see change. You will have a candidate that does not take money from the military-industrial complex, from AIPAC, from lobbyists, from any PAC or super PAC for that matter, who has no interest in profiting off of the American people, who wants to start in our district and have a way of life where we can all live reasonably and live our lives, not for the elite. So if you want a candidate that you can trust, that's transparent, that wants to be held accountable, I want to be held accountable for what I do for the American citizens, then that's who you want in office, because the folks we have there, they've already shown us, you know, when the enemy shows you who they are, believe them.
Yeah. Lieutenant Colonel Anthony Aguilar, thank you so much for being on the Homeless Left with us. And
thank you, Matt.
we'll
Appreciate
keep
it.
the conversation going. And
yeah.
See you next time. Thanks.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you.
You too.
Bye.